The February sun hung low over Helena, Montana. Painting the snow in shades of copper and ash, Jack Mercer stood on his porch, coffee steaming in his calloused hands, watching the woman before him struggle to speak. Clara Bennett, the seamstress who'd mended his daughter's dress 2 weeks back, stood with her shoulders squared. But her hands twisted the wool scarf at her throat like she was wringing out courage. "I have to tell you the truth, Mr. Mercer." Her voice came quiet, steady as she could make it. "I can't have children." The wind cut between them, sharp enough to sting. Jack watched her brace for rejection, saw the way her jaw tightened, the way her eyes fixed on the horizon past his shoulder, anywhere but his face. He knew that look. He'd worn it himself, standing over Sarah's grave 3 winters running. He smiled. Not pity, not hesitation, relief. "Good," he said, and meant it. "I've got one who needs loving." Clara's eyes snapped to his, searching for mockery. Found none. From inside the cabin came laughter, bright and fearless the way only 7-year-olds could manage. Lily burst through the door, blonde braids flying, cheeks flushed from the fire's warmth. She skidded to a stop between them, small hands grabbing her father's sleeve. "Pa, is Miss Clara staying for supper?" Her grin showed the gap where she'd lost a tooth last week. Jack looked at Clara, saw her face soften, saw something crack open in her expression, something that had been locked tight for a long time. She knelt down slow, meeting Lily at eye level. "If your PA says I'm welcome, you're welcome," Jack said. No hesitation. Lily whooped and grabbed Clara's hand, tugging her toward the door. Clara glanced back at Jack, questions in her eyes he didn't have words for yet. He just nodded, stepping aside to let her pass. The warmth from inside spilled out into the cold. Down the road, half hidden by the corner of the barn, a figure stood watching. Margaret Thornton, widow of the wealthiest rancher in 3 counties. Her black coat sharp against the snow. She didn't wave, didn't move. Just watched as Clara Bennett disappeared into Jack Mercer's home, then turned and walked back toward town. Inside, Lily was already chattering about the doll she'd been making from corn husks. Clara listened like every word mattered, and Jack realized he'd made a decision without fully knowing it. He closed the door against the cold. The wind picked up, scattering fresh powder across the porch, erasing their footprints one by one. 3 years back, Jack had stood in the same spot before Sarah's grave, hat in his hands, winter pressing down like 1,000 stones. The headstone read Sarah Ann Mercer, beloved wife, but the words felt hollow as wind through empty barns. The doctor's voice still echoed some nights. "You have to choose, Mr. Mercer. We can try to save your wife or guarantee the child." He'd chosen Sarah. Lost them both anyway. Only Lily survived, pulled from her mother's body in a room that smelled of blood and kerosene. He'd held his daughter for the first time while Sarah's hand went cold in his. 3 years of guilt didn't fade. It settled into his bones like Montana frost. 6 months ago, Clara had arrived in Helena with 1 trunk and no explanations. She'd rented the small shop on 2nd Street, hung a hand-painted sign, "Alterations and mending." The town women whispered, "Divorced." They said, though nobody knew for certain, what they did know spread faster. 5 years married, no children. Her husband had called her incomplete and left. Clara's needle moved in quick, precise strokes, closing a tear in pale blue fabric, a wedding dress for the banker's daughter. She'd sewn a dozen such dresses, held the dreams of women who'd have what she couldn't. Her ex-husband Thomas's words still cut. "You're not a whole woman, Clara. A man needs a legacy." She set down the needle, pressed her palm flat against the workbench until her hand stopped shaking. The shop bell had chimed 2 weeks prior. Jack Mercer. Hut in Hunt? A small girl hiding behind his legs. Lily's Sunday dress had torn on a fence nail. Clara had knelt down, Let the child come to her slowly. You have pretty hands, Lily had whispered, watching Clara's fingers work the torn seam. Clara had smiled for the first time in months. They're just hands that remember how to fix things. Jack had paid, said thank you, started to leave, then stopped, turned back. My daughter needs more than I know how to give. The words had hung between them. Clara had nodded, understanding more than he'd said. Now, standing at her work table in the dying light, Clara read his note again. Supper tomorrow. Need to talk serious. She folded the paper, pressed it between the pages of her Bible. Outside, the temperature dropped. Ice formed in lace patterns on the window glass. She touched one finger to the cold pane, traced the shape of something she'd stopped believing in. Hope. The dining table sat between them like a canyon. Lily slept upstairs, her soft breathing audible through the floorboards. Outside, snow fell in silence, each flake a whispered secret against the window pane. Clara gripped her teacup, the porcelain warm against her palms, anchoring her to the moment. Jack cleared his throat. Words had never come easy. Action was his language. But this required speech. I need to be straight with you, Miss Bennet. He set down his coffee, looked her in the eye. Lily's smart. Quick as a whip. But she's lonely. Needs to learn things I can't teach: sewing, cooking, how to talk soft when the world gets loud. Clara kept her hand steady on the cup. You want me to tutor her? No. Jack shook his head. I'm asking if you'd consider becoming part of this family, if you're willing. The fire crackled, filling the silence between heartbeats. Clara set down the tea, folded her hands in her lap. Her wedding ring was long gone, sold to pay for the shop lease. The pale band of skin had finally tanned over. Mr. Mercer, I can't give you children. She said it flat. No apology. Just fact. The way you'd state the color of the sky. Jack leaned forward, elbows on the worn table his grandfather had built. I don't need more children, Miss Bennet. I need someone who'll love the one I have. Someone who won't see her as a second choice or a duty. You don't know me well enough to... I know you mended Lily's dress like it mattered. I know you didn't ask questions or give pity. I know my daughter smiled more in one afternoon with you than she has in 3 years. He paused, gathering words like scattered wood. I'm not asking for promises we can't keep. I'm asking if you'll try 3 evenings a week. Teach her what you know. Let her know you. Clara studied his face weathered, honest, carrying its own weight of loss. Lily's laughter echoed in her memory, bright and uncomplicated. A child who'd asked nothing but accepted everything. What if the town talks? They will... Jack's jaw set. Question is whether you can live with that. Clara stood, walked to the window. Her reflection stared back, ghost-like against the darkness. Behind it, she could see Jack's silhouette, waiting, not pushing, just waiting. She turned, extended her hand. 3 evenings a week. We'll see where it leads. Jack rose, crossed the room. Their hands met calloused palm to needle-worn fingers. Not a romantic gesture, a contract built on something more fragile than love, hope that broken pieces might fit together. Outside, Margaret Thornton pulled her coat tighter, watched the handshake through the lit window, and turned toward town. By morning, everyone would know. Tuesday arrived cold and clear, the kind of winter afternoon where sunlight offered brightness but no warmth. Clara stood on Jack's porch, her sewing basket heavy in one hand, the other raised to knock. The door opened before her knuckles touched wood. Jack nodded once. Miss Bennet. Mr. Mercer. They stood 2 yards apart in the main room, the space between them filled with everything unspoken. The cabin smelled of pine soap and coffee. Clean but austere, Lily sat on a wooden chair by the hearth, swinging her legs, watching the adults with the keen awareness children have when they know something important is happening, but don't yet understand what... Are you Pa's friend? Lily's voice cut through the awkwardness like a knife through butter. Clara set down her basket, knelt to meet the girl's eyes. Not yet. But I hope to be. The answer seemed to satisfy her. Lily reached into the basket, fingers gentle on the spools of thread. Will you teach me to sew like you... If you'd like to learn... Jack moved to the window, giving them space but unable to leave. He'd spent 3 years in this room with only Lily's voice for company. Now Clara's presence shifted. The air made the cabin feel smaller and somehow larger at once. They began with simple things. Clara showed Lily how to thread a needle, how to tie off a knot that would hold. The girl's fingers fumbled at first, then found their rhythm. Outside, the sun tracked west, throwing long shadows across the floor. Could you hand me the blue thread? Sarah. The name dropped like a stone into still water. Jack's hand froze on the window frame. Clara's needle stopped mid-stitch. Lily looked up, confused by the sudden silence. I'm Clara, she said softly. No accusation, just correction. Jack turned, color rising in his neck. I'm sorry. I didn't mean... I know. Clara returned to her stitching, but her movements had stiffened. It's a hard habit to break. Lily reached out, took Clara's hand. It's okay. Pa forgets lots of things. Yesterday he called the horse by the dog's name. The child's matter-of-fact comfort broke something. Clara's mouth twitched toward a smile. Jack managed a rough laugh that didn't quite land. When evening came and Clara rose to leave, Lily grabbed her skirt. You'll come back, right? Thursday, Clara promised. Jack walked her to the door. Hat in hand, Miss Bennet. I truly am. Thursday, she repeated, and stepped into the cold. He watched her walk toward town, her figure growing smaller against the snow. Inside, he found Sarah's photograph on the mantel, turned it face down for the first time in 3 years, then picked it back up, set it right. Not yet, but maybe soon. The blizzard came without warning on Friday evening, wind howling like wolves across the prairie. Clara had stayed later than usual. Lily wanted to finish the sampler she'd been stitching, her small fingers determined to complete the row of uneven X's. By the time they looked up, darkness had swallowed the world beyond the windows. Jack bolted the door against the gale, checked the latch twice. Snow hammered the glass in furious waves. He turned to find Clara standing with her arms wrapped around herself, eyes wide. You can't go back in this. Not a question. A fact as solid as the walls around them. She nodded, glancing toward the stairs where Lily slept, already tucked in and dreaming, unaware of the storm's fury. I'll take the chair. Clara gestured to the worn seat by the hearth. You should sleep in your own bed. I'll take the loft. Jack pulled a heavy quilt from the chest, handed it to her. Their fingers brushed just for a heartbeat and both pulled back as if burned. Neither moved toward sleep. The fire demanded feeding, and the wind's scream made rest impossible. They sat on opposite sides of the hearth, the flames casting shifting shadows across their faces. My husband left after the 5th doctor. Clara's voice came quiet, barely audible above the storm. Said I'd trapped him in a marriage with no future, no legacy. She stared into the fire. I believed him for a long time. Jack poked at the logs, sending sparks spiraling up the chimney. The doctor gave me a choice. Save Sarah or save the baby. I chose my wife. His jaw worked. Lost them both anyway. Kept asking God why he'd make me choose if the answer didn't matter. Did you find an answer? No? Just learn to carry it. Clara looked at him then. Really looked. Saw not the ghost of a dead wife, but a man who'd been hollowed out and was slowly, painfully, filling back up. I can't give you children, Mr. Mercer, but I can love one. If you let me... Jack met her eyes across the fire. You don't need my permission for that. The moment stretched, taut as wire. He reached for another log. She shifted the quilt. Their hands met in the space between his, rough and scarred. Hers marked by needle pricks. Neither pulled away. The touch lasted 3 seconds, maybe 4. Then Jack stood, cleared his throat. "I'll check the door again." Clara nodded, wrapped the quilt tighter, feeling the warmth where his hand had been. Outside, the storm raged. Inside, something quieter and more dangerous had begun. Dawn came gray and still. When Clara stepped onto the porch, old Callahan was riding past. He saw her, saw Jack standing in the doorway behind her. He didn't wave, just turned his horse toward town. Sunday afternoon came bright and bitter cold. Snow melting in patches where the sun struck directly. 3 women stood on Jack's porch, like crows on a fence line, Margaret Thornton flanked by Rebecca Callahan and Dorothy Murphy, all dressed in their church best, faces carved from righteous stone. Jack opened the door, saw their expressions, and knew. "Mr. Mercer." Margaret's voice carried the sweetness of poisoned honey. "We need to speak about Lily's welfare." Inside, Clara stood at the kitchen basin, washing the lunch dishes. She could see them through the window, couldn't hear the words yet, but didn't need to. She'd seen this play before. Lily's doing fine. Jack didn't invite them in, didn't step aside. Is she? Rebecca folded her gloved hands. "Mr. Mercer, that woman spent the night here. People are talking. There was a blizzard. There are appearances to consider." Dorothy's voice held practiced concern. "And more importantly, there's the child's future. Miss Bennett can't give you more children. Lily will grow up alone. No brothers or sisters. A girl needs a complete family." Margaret moved closer, her perfume sharp as vinegar. "You're a good man, Jack. A godly man. But you're lonely. And loneliness makes us accept less than we deserve. Lily deserves a real mother. One who can give her siblings. Give you sons to carry your name." Jack's hands curled into fists at his sides. Every word struck where doubt already lived. He'd asked himself the same questions in the dark hours before dawn. "Clara's a good woman. But is she the right woman?" Margaret let the question hang. "We're not judging her character. We're thinking of what's best for that little girl upstairs." Inside, Clara's hands had gone still in the dishwater. Every word carried clear through the window glass. "I'll think on it," Jack said finally, and hated himself for the words even as they left his mouth. The women nodded, satisfied, and took their leave. Jack stood on the porch long after they'd gone, the cold seeping through his shirt. When he turned, Clara stood in the doorway. Her face told him she'd heard everything. "You don't need to think on it, Mr. Mercer." Her voice came steady, but her hands twisted in her apron. "They're right. Lily deserves more than half a woman can give. Clara, I'll finish out this week. For Lily's sake." She untied the apron, folded it with precise, mechanical movements. "But after that, I think it's best I don't come back." She brushed past him, grabbed her coat from the hook. Jack reached for her arm, then let his hand drop. He watched her walk away, snow crunching under her boots. Didn't call after her, didn't chase. Inside, Lily's voice drifted down from upstairs, singing softly to herself the lullaby Clara had taught her Thursday evening. Jack closed the door, leaned his forehead against the wood, and did nothing. 3 days passed like years. The cabin felt hollow despite the fire burning constant. Despite Lily's presence, Jack went through the motions feeding the stock, chopping wood, cooking meals that tasted like sawdust. He caught himself listening for the sound of Clara's knock that wouldn't come. Lily asked once. Only once. "When's Miss Clara coming back?" "She's not, sweetheart." The girl had nodded, gone quiet, retreated to her room. Jack heard her crying that night but didn't know what comfort to offer. How could he explain something he didn't understand himself? Wednesday night, past midnight. The crying came again, harder this time. Jack climbed the ladder to the loft, found Lily curled under her quilt, face red and wet. "Hey now!" He sat on the edge of her bed, rough hand on her small shoulder. "What's all this? Did I do something wrong?" The words came between hiccuping sobs. "Is that why Miss Clara left?" "No." "Baby." "No. You did nothing wrong." "Then why—" Lily sat up, grabbed fistfuls of his shirt. "Pa, I don't need brothers or sisters. I just need Miss Clara. Why can't she stay?" The words hit him like a kick from a horse, knocked the air clean out of his lungs. He pulled Lily close, felt her tears soak through his shirt, and finally understood. He'd made the same mistake twice. Let other people's voices drown out what mattered. Chosen fear over faith. "I'm sorry. Lily girl, I'm so sorry." He held her until she slept, then climbed back down, grabbed his coat without thinking, saddled the horse in darkness. The cemetery sat 2 miles out, marked by a stand of bare cottonwoods skeletal against the stars. Sarah's headstone gleamed pale in the moonlight. Jack knelt in the frozen earth, hat in hands. "I think you'd like her." "Sarah?" His breath came in white clouds. "She's good with Lily. Patient. Kind. Doesn't try to be you just herself." He paused, fingers tracing the carved letters of her name. "I need to let you go now. Not forget. Never forget. But let go enough to hold on to something new." The wind answered, cold and clean, carrying the scent of coming snow. "I'm asking your permission, even though I don't need it. Because I loved you. Because you gave me Lily." His voice cracked. "Because I'm scared to death of losing someone again." No voice came from heaven. No sign. Just wind and stars and the weight of 3 years lifting. Inch by inch, Jack stood, mounted his horse, and rode hard for town. The street sat empty, dark except for scattered lamplight. He found Clara's shop, dismounted, and sat on the step to wait. Dawn came slow and pink. The door opened behind him. Clara stood there, eyes swollen from her own sleepless nights. "How long have you been here?" "Long enough to know I'm not leaving until you hear me out." She wrapped her shawl tighter, but didn't close the door. The church sat full that Sunday morning. Winter light streaming through plain glass windows, catching dust motes in golden shafts. Reverend Walsh stood at the pulpit, Bible open, speaking on mercy and judgment. Jack barely heard the words. He sat midway back, Lily's hand small and warm in his, feeling every eye that had found them when they entered. Margaret Thornton occupied her usual front pew, flanked by Rebecca and Dorothy. They'd nodded to Jack with satisfaction, believed they'd won. That Clara Bennett had been properly dismissed from his life. They were wrong. Jack stood. The scrape of the wooden pew against floorboards cut through the Reverend's sermon. Every head turned. Lily looked up at her father, confused but trusting. "Reverend Walsh, I apologize for the interruption." Jack's voice carried clear to the rafters. "But I have something needs saying." The Reverend closed his Bible slowly. "The floor is yours." "Jack, I let gossip make me doubt a good woman." Jack turned to face the congregation, Lily still holding his hand. "Clara Bennett can't have children." "That's true, but she's got the biggest heart I've ever seen. My daughter loves her. And he paused, swallowed. "I love her too." Whispers rippled through the pews like wind through wheat. Margaret's face flushed crimson. "If any of you want to judge her, you'll have to judge me first. Because I'm the one who let cowards dictate my choices. I'm the one who hurt her." His grip tightened on Lily's hand. "A family isn't just blood. It's who shows up when storms come, who mends what's torn, who stays." Silence, heavy as snow on barn roofs. Then a voice from the back. Old Moses Garrett, 84 years and respected by every soul present. He rose slow, leaning on his cane. "The Lord adopted us as his children, not through blood, through love." His weathered face creased deeper. Seems to me that little girl's got all the mother she needs. If the man's wise enough to accept the gift. A few nodded. Then a few more. Margaret stood abruptly, gathered her skirts, and marched down the aisle and out the door. Rebecca and Dorothy followed, their exit a silent condemnation. Jack didn't watch them go. He was already moving, Lily running to keep up as he pushed through the church doors into cold sunlight. They found Clara in her shop, needle in hand, eyes red-rimmed. Jack didn't knock, just opened the door and dropped to one knee on the worn floorboards. "I was afraid," he said. "I'm still afraid. But I'm more afraid of losing you." Lily threw her arms around Clara's waist. "Please don't go." Clara's needle fell, forgotten. She looked at Jack, really looked, and saw a man who'd finally chosen right. "Get up, Jack Mercer. You look ridiculous down there." He stood. She stepped forward, and this time, when their hands met, neither let go. 3 months changed everything and nothing. May arrived with wildflowers painting the meadow in purple and gold, the air finally losing winter's bite. The garden beside Jack's cabin, their cabin now burst with life. Clara knelt in the black earth, showing Lily how to thin the carrot seedlings. Both their hands dark with soil, Jack rebuilt the fence line. Not to keep the world out, but to protect what they'd planted together. His hammer rang steady against new posts, a rhythm as reliable as heartbeat. Lily held up a lumpy carrot, crooked as a dog's hind leg. "Think this one'll grow straight?" "Ma." The word came natural, unplanned. Clara's hands stilled. She looked at Jack. He'd stopped mid-swing, hammer suspended. Lily seemed unaware she'd said anything remarkable. "Already digging for another seedling." Clara's eyes met Jack's across the garden. He nodded once, slow and certain. "I think it'll grow just fine," Clara said, voice steady despite the catch in her throat. "The crooked ones are always the sweetest." The wedding had been simple, Reverend Walsh officiating. Moses Garrett standing witness along with a handful of friends who'd chosen compassion over judgment. Clara wore a dress she'd sewn herself, cream-colored calico with blue buttons. Jack had purchased a new vest, brushed his hat clean. Lily stood between them, holding both their hands. The vows were plain. "I promised to build a family through love, not blood." Margaret Thornton hadn't attended. Neither had several others. But the pews that were filled held people who mattered, people who understood that family was something you chose, something you built board by board, day by day. Now, evening settled soft across the land. Supper finished, dishes washed. Lily played with the new pup, a spotted mongrel she'd named Patch, while Jack and Clara sat on the porch. The mountains stood purple against the dying light, snowcaps still visible on the highest peaks. "Do you ever regret it?" Clara asked, not looking at him. "That I can't give you more children?" Jack took her hand, the gesture familiar now. "Comfortable. You gave me what I needed most. A whole family." Clara leaned into his shoulder. Lily's laughter carried clear in the cool air, mixed with the pup's excited barking. Somewhere a meadowlark sang its last song before darkness. The land had thawed. The cabin that had felt like a tomb for 3 years now rang with life. On the mantel, Sarah's photograph sat turned toward the wall, not hidden, just no longer the center. Beside it, a new frame held a different image. Jack, Clara, and Lily, taken in town by the traveling photographer. 3 people who'd found each other not through chance, but through the hard work of choosing to stay when storms came. Jack pulled Clara closer as the first stars appeared.